You know, it's a topic that comes up all the time. Belly fat. Everyone seems concerned about it.
Yeah, it's a big one.
So today, we're going to really dig into it. We've got this fantastic Q&A guide as our base, and we're aiming to pull out the really crucial bits about why it shows up and what we can actually realistically do about it.
It's good.
Forget the quick fixes and fad diets, right?
Yeah.
We want clear, science-backed insights for you. This guide, it covers so much ground: diet, exercise, sleep, stress, the works.
Yeah, it's comprehensive.
So, ready to get into the nitty-gritty of belly fat.
Absolutely. And maybe the first thing to clarify is what we mean by belly fat. We're often talking specifically about visceral fat.
Right, the internal stuff.
Exactly. It's not just the fat you can pinch, like subcutaneous fat.
Yeah.
Visceral fat is deeper. It surrounds your organs. And the concerning thing is that it's metabolically active.
Meaning?
Well, it releases compounds, hormones, and inflammatory substances that can really mess with your health. Think
Yeah.
insulin resistance, heart problems, stuff like that. It's more than just appearance.
Okay, so it's not just passive storage. That makes sense why it gets so much attention. And the guide, it points to several reasons why it builds up, doesn't it? It's not just one thing.
Definitely not. There's a whole mix of factors.
Yeah, like obviously what we eat plays a huge role. Overeating, especially lots of processed foods, high calorie stuff, that's a major contributor.
For sure. Simple energy imbalance is often step one.
And then there's the whole sedentary lifestyle thing, sitting too much, not moving enough.
Mm-hmm. Activity levels are critical.
But the guide also brings up things like, well, sleep quality. Poor sleep seems linked. And stress. High stress levels, too.
Yes, the hormonal effects there are quite significant. Cortisol plays a big role.
And it even touches on things like underlying hormonal imbalances and, our genetics. Some people are just more predisposed, it seems.
That's true. Genetics can influence where you store fat, but lifestyle factors are still hugely powerful. It really is a whole picture situation.
So tackling it means looking at all these different angles.
Precisely.
Mm.
And maybe the most foundational piece the guide covers is diet. You mentioned energy balance.
Right. Calories in versus calories out. Sounds simple, but
It's the cornerstone. Fundamentally, you need to consume fewer calories than your body burns to lose fat. The guide gives some really practical pointers on how to tilt that balance.
yeah, it does. And it's not about like crazy restrictions. It
Sure.
emphasizes fiber, for instance, which makes sense. Helps you feel full, right?
Exactly. Keeps you satiated, helps digestion. Big plus.
And limiting sugar, especially sugary drinks and those refined carbs, white bread, pastries, that kind of thing.
Yeah, those can spike insulin
Yeah.
and contribute directly to visceral fat storage. Very important to moderate those.
It also recommends upping protein intake. Good for muscle, but also helps with feeling full longer.
Protein has a higher thermic effect too, meaning your body burns more calories digesting it compared to fats or carbs, and it helps preserve muscle mass when you're losing weight.
And the bedrock of all this advice seems to be focusing on whole foods. Fruits, vegetables, lean meats, whole grains, the less processed stuff.
That's the common thread, isn't it? Nutrient density, fiber, fewer empty calories. It's solid science-backed advice.
Totally. And that links perfectly into the next big piece. The guide highlights exercise.
Right, because diet is crucial for creating the deficit. But exercise, well, it does more than just burn calories during the workout.
How so?
It helps maintain or even boost your metabolic rate. Building muscle through strength training, for example, means you burn more calories even when you're at rest.
Oh, okay. So it's like a long-term investment in your metabolism.
You could say that, yeah.
Yeah.
And the guide recommends a mix of approaches, which is smart.
Yeah, I saw that. It mentions cardio, getting your heart rate up. Suggests about 150 minutes of moderate intensity, like brisk walking, or 75 minutes of vigorous stuff like running each week.
Those are the standard guidelines, very effective for overall health and calorie burn.
And strength training. Lifting weights or using resistance bands a couple of times a week.
Crucial for building that muscle mass we talked about.
Plus, it mentions HIIT, high-intensity interval training. Short bursts of really intense effort followed by rest.
HIIT can be very time efficient for boosting metabolism and burning calories, yeah. So a combination is generally best.
Okay, so diet and exercise are the big two, obviously. But the guide also flags something maybe less obvious: hydration.
Yes, often overlooked, but really important.
It seems so basic, just drinking water. But the guide makes a strong case. It says good hydration can actually give your metabolism a bit of a boost.
It can, and it also helps with appetite control. Sometimes we think we're hungry when we're actually just thirsty.
Interesting point. Plus, it helps digestion, and it's the perfect swap for sugary sodas or juices, which are just packed with empty calories.
Absolutely. Replacing those drinks with water is such an easy win. The guide suggests aiming for at least 8 glasses a day.
Yeah, that's the general guideline it mentions. Seems like a simple, doable habit to build.
Definitely. And sticking with these, let's say, less obvious factors,
Hmm.
the guide really dives into the connection between stress, sleep, and belly fat. It's fascinating how linked they are.
It really is. We focus so much on the physical food movement, but the mental and, well, rest aspects are critical too. The guide explains how chronic stress keeps cortisol levels high.
The stress hormone, right?
Yeah, and apparently high cortisol specifically encourages the body to store fat right in the abdominal area. It's like a direct signal.
It is. It's a survival mechanism gone a bit haywire in modern life.
Yeah.
So managing stress isn't just, nice to have for your mood.
It actually impacts fat storage. So those relaxation techniques, the guide mentions meditation, deep breathing, yoga, whatever works for you,
Yeah.
they have a real physiological benefit here.
They absolutely can help regulate that cortisol response.
Mhm.
And then there's sleep.
Right. Getting enough quality sleep. The guide recommends 7 to 9 hours for most adults.
And it's not just about feeling tired or grumpy. Lack of sleep messes with the hormones that control hunger and fullness, ghrelin and leptin.
Ah, okay. So less sleep means you might feel hungrier and less satisfied after eating.
Exactly. You're more likely to crave high-calorie, sugary foods, and your body's signals are just off. It directly contributes to weight gain, often around the middle. It's all interconnected.
It really paints a picture of needing a balanced lifestyle, doesn't it? Not just focusing on one piece.
It does. And speaking of lifestyle factors, the guide also brings up alcohol.
Ah, yes. The dreaded alcohol question. How does it fit in?
Well, multiple ways, according to the guide. First, the obvious. Empty calories. Alcoholic drinks can be surprisingly high in calories that offer basically zero nutrition.
Yeah, those cocktails can add up fast.
They can. But it's also about impaired judgment. After a few drinks, maybe you're more likely to reach for unhealthy snacks or eat larger portions than you normally would.
Makes sense. Your willpower kind of fades.
Right. And there's also a metabolic effect. The guide explains that the body prioritizes metabolizing alcohol over fat, so fat burning essentially gets put on hold while your body processes the booze.
Wow, okay, so it's the calories, the choices while drinking, and how the body actually handles it.
Exactly. So the advice is generally to moderate intake, be mindful of what and how much you're drinking.
Got it. So beyond the big ones, diet, exercise, stress, sleep, alcohol, did the guide mention other sort of supporting lifestyle habits?
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
It talked about generally increasing your daily movement, even outside of planned workouts, taking the stairs, walking more. Little things add up.
Neat, right. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Precisely. It also mentioned quitting smoking, which has countless health benefits beyond just weight management, obviously.
Of course.
And things like mindful eating, really tuning into your body's hunger and fullness signals, eating slowly, savoring food, less mindless munching.
That seems like it would help avoid overeating too. And it mentioned avoiding late night snacks.
Yeah, especially if they're driven by habit or boredom rather than genuine hunger. It's about creating an overall pattern that supports your goals.
Okay, so someone takes all this on board, they start making changes. A big question is always, how fast can you expect to see results? Especially with belly fat, which feels so stubborn.
That's a really important point. The guide addresses managing expectations. It emphasizes that healthy, sustainable fat loss is gradual.
Not an overnight fix.
Definitely not. The guide suggests a realistic rate is around maybe half a kilo to 1 kilo per week, so roughly 1 to 2 pounds. Trying to lose faster often isn't sustainable and can even be unhealthy.
And belly fat specifically might take time, even if you're losing weight overall.
It can, yeah. Where your body loses fat first is partly genetic, so patience is key. And the guide makes a great point about focusing on non-scale victories.
Oh, I like that. What does that mean?
Things like having more energy, your clothes fitting better, sleeping more soundly, feeling stronger during workouts. These are all signs you're getting healthier, even if the scale isn't moving as fast as you'd like.
That's a much healthier way to track progress, isn't it? Focus on how you feel.
Absolutely. And the guide offers tips for staying motivated too, because consistency is everything. Things like setting clear, achievable goals, not just lose belly fat, but maybe walk 30 minutes, 5 days a week.
Specific goals.
Makes sense. Yeah. Tracking your progress, celebrating the small wins along the way, finding a support system, friends, family, a group, Even just varying your exercise routine to keep things interesting. And reminding yourself why you're doing it. The health benefits, not just the aesthetics.
That's really useful advice, because motivation can definitely dip. Now, what about myths? There are so many myths around belly fat. Did the guide tackle any of those?
Oh, yes. It definitely did. It's
Oh.
important to clear those up.
Like the idea that you can do, I don't know, 1,000 crunches a day and just melt belly fat. Spot reduction.
Yeah, that's a classic one. The guide is
Yeah.
clear. You can't spot reduce fat. Doing crunches strengthens your abdominal muscles, which is great, but it won't specifically burn the fat covering those muscles. Fat loss happens all over the body when you're in a calorie deficit.
Okay, good to clarify. What else? Those fat-burning pills and supplements.
Right. The guide basically warns against them. Most are ineffective, not well regulated, and some can even be dangerous or have nasty side effects. There's no magic pill, unfortunately.
Stick to the fundamentals.
That's
And what about carbs? Sometimes carbs get demonized entirely.
That's another important clarification in the guide. It's not about cutting out all carbs. Complex carbohydrates like those found in whole grains, vegetables, legumes are actually a vital source of energy and fiber.
So it's about the type of carb, not carbs themselves, refined versus complex.
Exactly. It's about choosing nutrient-dense complex carbs over refined sugary ones. A balanced diet needs healthy carbohydrates. It's about quality.
Okay, so focus on whole body fat loss, be wary of pills, and choose carbs wisely. Got it. Now, what if someone tries all these lifestyle things consistently and still really struggles with stubborn belly fat? Does the guide mention other options?
It does briefly touch on medical interventions, acknowledging that for some people, despite best efforts, it can be incredibly difficult.
Like what sort of things?
It mentions certain medications that a doctor might prescribe in specific situations, and also procedures like cryolipolysis. Cool Sculpting is a brand name which freezes fat cells, or liposuction, which surgically removes fat. There's also abdominoplasty, or a tummy tuck, which removes excess skin and tightens muscles, often combined with lipo.
Okay, so there are options beyond lifestyle, but
And this is the crucial point the guide makes, these are things you must discuss thoroughly with a doctor or qualified healthcare professional. They involve risks, benefits, costs, and aren't suitable for everyone. They're typically considered after significant lifestyle efforts haven't yielded the desired health outcomes.
right, not a first resort and needs proper medical guidance. Makes sense. One last factor the guide touches on is age. Does it get harder to lose belly fat as we get older?
That's a common concern, and the guide acknowledges it, yeah. Metabolism can naturally slow down a bit with age, and hormonal changes, especially for women during menopause, can influence fat distribution, sometimes favoring abdominal storage.
So it is a bit harder.
It can be, yes. But the key message from the guide is encouraging. The fundamental principles still apply. Eating well, staying active, managing stress, getting enough sleep. These things remain effective at any age.
So it's not inevitable, you just might need to be even more consistent or patient.
Exactly. You might need to pay a bit more attention, maybe adjust your calorie intake slightly, or ensure you're getting enough strength training to combat muscle loss. But the core strategies work. Don't assume age means you can't make progress.
That's good to hear. So we've covered a lot, really taken that deep dive based on this Q&A guide. If you had to boil it down, what's the main takeaway for you?
For me, it's really the synergy. It's not one magic bullet. It's the combination, the diet, the right kind of exercise, looking after your sleep, managing stress, being mindful of habits like alcohol. It all works together. Reducing belly fat effectively and sustainably requires this sort of multifaceted approach.
Yeah, I agree. Interconnectedness seems to be the key word. It's about sustainable lifestyle changes across the board, not just a temporary diet or workout plan.
Precisely. And maybe that leads to a final thought for you listening.
Mm-hmm.
Considering everything we've explored today, all these different pieces,
Mm-hmm.
what's maybe one small actionable step you feel you could actually take starting today
Yeah.
that moves you just a little bit closer towards a healthier you? It doesn't have to be huge, just one thing.